election of chair and vice chair. So we have a resolution here, be it resolved that the board appoint so-and-so as chair of the Police Services Board for 2019. Do I have a mover for that motion?
I move that John Woodbury takes the chair.
Okay, do I have a seconder? John? All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Is that okay with you, John?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, second resolution, be it resolved that the board appoint as vice chair of the Police Services Board. Do I have a mover for that?
Sure. Yeah, that's what it was good.
Okay. Jim, are you okay with that, vice chair?
Yep, okay.
Okay. All those in favor? And that's carried as well. So, John, I'll turn it over to you.
We use the microphones and everything?
Well, we don't have to.
Okay.
We talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same, my grandfather used to call me John with the quiet voice because he was deaf and he could hear me. So.
I became chair, I was given this by previous chair.
Oh, okay.
It's been handed down. I gave it to Dennis Evans.
Yep.
I quit. I got it back again.
And he actually gave it back?
It's
Wow.
now yours.
Good, thank you. I'll put that on my jacket. Thank you. Okay, oaths of office. I've got nothing here on my.
Sorry.
But I could read the title really well, I think.
Oh, sorry, hang on 2 seconds. Do you have your screen up? Can you look on that? Will that work for you?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna put them on the screens and then
Okay.
you'll go through each member saying their oath, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Do you see it on your screen, Jim? Or John, sorry?
Yep.
You'll call on each member.
Okay, so Jim, you're up first.
So Jim, if you repeat what's on the screen here, so it's the oath of office for the term.
I will be loyal to Her Majesty the Queen and to Canada, and I will uphold the Constitution of Canada, and I will, to the best of my ability, discharge my duties as a member of the Township of Southgate Police Services Board faithfully, impartially, and according to the Police Services Act, or any other act, or any regulation, rule, or bylaw. This is, I make this some promise and declaration, consciously believing it to be true, knowing that it is of the same force and effect as given under oath.
Okay.
Queen Elizabeth would be proud of you and
Yep.
Scotch from Jimmy.
I don't know how much that stuck in my throat saying that.
I will be loyal to Her Majesty the Queen and to Canada, and that I will uphold the Constitution of Canada, and that I will be the best of my ability to discharge my duties as member of the Township of Southgate Police Services Board faithfully, impartially, and according to the Police Services Act, any other act, and any regulation, rule, or bylaw. That I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as made under oath.
Bruce, do you have the screen up there?
I do.
Okay.
I will be loyal to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth of Canada, and that I will uphold the Constitution of Canada, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge my duties as a member of the Township of Southgate Police Services Board faithfully, impartially, and according to the Police Services Act and any other act and regulation, rule, or bylaw. That I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same force and effect as made under oath.
And John?
I will be loyal to Her Majesty the Queen and Canada, and that I will uphold the Constitution of Canada, and that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge my duties as a member of the Township of Southgate Police Services Board impartially and according to the Police Services Act, any other act, and any regulation, rule, or bylaw, and that I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Okay. Confirmation of the agenda. Before we on to confirming the agenda, there was two things that I wanted to bring up, but I think they can be brought up under new business. One is about a ride check at Holstein. There was a couple of questions, and the other was about the speed monitoring device we were talking about this morning. So we'll get those up under new business. So do I have a mover for the agenda? Don, seconder, Bruce. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. You can declare now or any time through the meeting. Seeing none. Motion to adopt the minutes from the September 18th meeting. Can I have a mover for that?
Sure, I'll move that.
Okay, Bruce will move it. Seconder.
It was there, wasn't it?
Okay.
Looking it up.
Yes, you were.
Oh, that's,
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yep. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Business arising. Appointments to township. Appointments to Township of Southgate Police Services Board. Be it resolved that the board receives staff update regarding appointments to the Township of Southgate Police Service Board. Information. I don't have any.
I can give that update.
Okay.
You wanna get a mover and something like that?
Sure. Do I have a mover for that then? And
I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but what's,
yeah.
It's just a verbal update, sorry, I'm gonna give a verbal update.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's
No.
nothing on the agenda, just the title.
Yeah, just an update regarding the appointments to the Police Services Board here.
can I ask a question about the other provincial appointees at this point, or?
So, okay, so I'll say my spiel. So, okay, so for the council appointees, I'll talk about that first. So council appointees, there is both Dawn Lewis and Dale Pallister as council appointees. And until such time the council makes the decision to appoint one or the other. Staff, it was an error on staff's part that both of them were accidentally appointed, so we're fixing that. And as for the public, until it's corrected, both Dale and Dawn are members. Dale a non-voting member. Dawn is a voting member. So as for the public appointments, we have one remaining open, and yours, Bruce, is, your term ends in September
This year,
of this year. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Jim.
As far as Dale goes, he can't be a member until such times as it's passed by another council,
It was.
by the province of Ontario.
No, by a council resolution. He's a
Council, it requires a resolution from the provincial government, the Solicitor General.
I think what the difference is for him to be the provincial member, yes. The mistake was made where two people were put on, and we have to go through the procedure of correcting that mistake at Township Council. Because I don't think we've rescinded that, have we?
No.
So that's what we have to do right away. That should have been rescinded.
What should be rescinded?
That we put two people on. We should never have done that. You brought that to our attention, that we should never have done that.
Yeah, the trouble here is that the clerk refused to accept my decision on that. Don Lewis was appointed in December the 12th at the Zone 5 meeting.
Mhm.
You may recall that.
Yep.
Staff started to interfere with the board, and it calls out to both Dale and to John,
Mhm.
Don. That should never have happened.
That's right.
Nobody communicated with the chair of the board to find out what was happening. That was another big mistake. And due to that, the clerk decided that I was no longer the chair until such times as this meeting took place. I had already given Lindsay a schedule for the January 15th meeting. The clerk refused to accept that, saying it was too late. We finally got it organised, and I told her that she had made a mistake with regards to having 2 community member appointments. She refused to accept that, and that's when the calls started going out. Had there been no interference by staff, everything would have gone smoothly, and Dale would have picked up his position through the Ordering Council from the province of Ontario.
Yep.
It stands at the present time. Don is the member, and he's been sworn in as that.
Yep.
And we can't have substitute members on the board. It's the same as council. You can't have a substitute member on council.
Right. Yep.
So Dale has to wait until such times as it comes in through the province of Ontario.
Yep, and that's why he's not at the table and voting, he's there. But we have to also rescind that from council because it was done in error. But that's just the motion at our township council. That's the big thing we have to do now to solve the problem.
We'll get that fixed next week.
Okay. Yep.
Sorry, Dale.
Okay, so that was the full report?
Yes.
Okay, so can I have a mover and a seconder to receive that report?
I move.
Okay, we can move it. Second it. Any further discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Township of Southgate resolution to opt out of cannabis retail stores. Board discussion. Be it resolved, the board received the information discussed regarding the Township of Southgate's resolution to opt out of the cannabis retail store. Can I have a mover for that? Bruce will move it.
And excuse me,
Yeah.
just receiving it for information.
Yes.
It's not in any way
No.
getting support.
We
No.
have no input other than just to receive it.
Yeah.
It's not our area, that's why I
That's
was
right.
wondering, it's not
Yep.
our area.
No, just for information. Okay. Do we need a seconder still? Oh, okay, Tom seconded it. And Lindsay, I don't have anything on that one either.
So, Vice Chair Frew, you had me add this as an agenda item,
What was that?
Cannabis.
the cannabis.
Actually, it was to do with the Side Road 24.
The occurrence,
Yeah.
the incident that you talked about?
That's not what I was given in your list the list you gave me.
Well, this is just for information purposes.
Yeah. Well, I can talk this one for information. The council of Township of Southgate opted out of having a retail store, just simply because, or allowing a retail store, simply because we didn't feel there was enough information to make a decision one way or another, and if we didn't opt out by January 22nd, we couldn't opt out at all. So that's pretty well the gist of why we did what we did.
So we required municipalities to opt out, otherwise they were obliged?
Yes, yeah, they had the choice of opt out, opt in, or do nothing, and if they did nothing, January 22nd, it was deemed that they'd opted in.
But you can opt in after so many years.
We can, no, right now,
Yeah.
we can opt in the day after. And what it meant was, you didn't get as much funding, but it appears the funding wasn't much anyway, so it was really
And it was going to larger communities, you know.
That's right, yeah, so that was the gist behind why I opted out. If you would like to add to that?
Well, just so people understand why, it's kind of funny, why you opt out, but if you opt in, you gotta stay in because you said to a business owner that you can go ahead and set up your business, invest, and so we said, we don't know enough, so we opted out. Sometime down the road, when we get better informed, because the public really doesn't understand this. We got an email today about this very issue. So I think it's important we maybe do some more education at the cannabis meetings and let them know that. But once you opt in, you got to let it go. somebody else has to say no, whether it's the province or the feds shut it down or something in the future, but you can't just set somebody up and then take the rug out from underneath them, it's a rationale there.
And in the meantime, we've got surveys out and we're doing meetings and that just to get public input, but, the whole deal was get out while we could.
Has there been anybody come forward that wants to set up?
Not a retail store that I'm aware of. And the licenses have been to places over 50,000 people. So even though everybody in Grey County was out, nobody was allowed to put one up in Grey County anywhere. So, okay. Unless there's more questions on that, we can move on to the next one. And that is,
John, all those in favor?
oh, yeah, we can do that. We can vote too.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of receiving that for information? And that's carried. I should sit beside you so you can elbow me every once in a while. No, maybe I'm better off here. Okay, be it resolved that the board received the changes to the Police Services Board procedural bylaw as information, and that the board directs staff to bring back a revised draft with all suggested changes to the next Police Service Board meeting. Is that a mover for that?
Can I ask a question before we
Sure.
do that? When you say staff, that's the,
That's Lindsay.
so it's municipal staff that
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll move that.
Okay, Bruce moves it.
Procedural bylaw, I read it through and there's
Yeah.
green and there was red and yellow and I was a little bit confused, but the greens and stuff is gonna be put in, right?
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
So the red, so what's called track changes, so the red is what will be added,
Oh.
and anything with a slash through it's gonna be deleted,
Okay.
and anything color, I believe is that.
Maybe I'll correct that a bit.
Okay,
Yellow was what Jim recommended.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the clerk's office went through it and made recommendations. So I think the board should review those recommendations, and maybe, if you want, someone from the clerk's department comes back the next meeting and just explain why they did it that way. For example, there's one reference in there that thou shalt have 4 meetings. You can have 6, but you must have 4. And you can have 12. I mean, partway through the year, you can decide and have 6 or 7 or 8, but you shall not, according to the Police Services Act, have less than 4, as we understand it. So there's those kind of things to give you that kind of guidance, but, I mean, it's your procedural bylaw, but these are just ideas and suggestions that, the clerk's department has made, that are in red and what other color
Mhm.
intonations.
Yeah.
Jim?
I would suggest that you do not recognize this particular amendment to the Police Service Board bylaw because it's not made up by any member of the board. Only the board can make changes to the procedural bylaw. I made the changes and it was only recently that Lindsay managed to get it typed up. This is the one here that we should be giving consideration to, not anything that was submitted by staff, because staff is not a member of the board. When the board makes its decision as to what goes into this, then staff can make copies of it for each member of the board.
So Jim, the stuff you wanted in there, it's in there in yellow, and then the clerk's department just did some changes to that as well. They're both included.
The problem is the clerk's department can't make changes to the procedural bylaw. They can't make additions and they can't make deletions. Only the board members can do that. How many times do I have to explain it?
But that's why it's here tonight. We read it over, we agree or disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has to type the bloody thing up.
It's the suggestions. That's all it is,
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah.
That's the one there, with all the changes in it.
Well,
So what
By
we're
the
doing is
board,
receiving it.
the board members should have a copy of this one too.
Yes, the vote is to receive it as information and direct staff to bring back the revised draft with all the suggested changes to the next Police Services Board meeting.
asking the clerk then to appear at the next meeting to, if,
Well,
is that,
we've got the deputy clerk here as our secretary, and so she's explaining some of this as we go in the procedure that it went through.
Well, Mr. Chair, you can do what you want. That's why I'm not the chair this time around, because I cannot tolerate staff interference.
Okay.
So it's your decision.
Well, it's the board's decision, we'll see what we want to do with this. Well, there was-
can we receive this as information and delete the last part? If the board be direct,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
You can make an amendment.
what do you think of that, Jim? If we receive this revised,
This is the one that we should be receiving.
but it's not the one that's being presented,
Pardon?
but it's not the one that's being presented.
No, that one should never have been presented, because it wasn't presented by any member of the board. It wasn't approved by any board. It should never have been put on the agenda.
But did you not, as a board member, go and present your ideas to be put on paper?
Yes,
And
and that's all the changes that I
and that's
wanted.
this result here.
No, that's not it. This is it here. This one.
See, I see.
Jim's changes are in the document that's in the agenda in yellow,
As well as,
as well as just
Suggestions.
suggestions and ideas
Yeah,
about.
well, I read this through, and that's why I was trying to figure out the yellow and the green and the red, and I kinda figured that's what was going on, but
Mhm.
if there was any brick I could throw, I wish the color, explain what the color was.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe we don't even receive this time.
Well, I think somebody has to take leadership to this piece of paper, though,
Mhm.
ownership, I should say. And,
Well,
yours, Jim, yours is, got all your corrections in it?
The reason that I did this, you'll find that in .32,
Can you bring that up again, please?
Mhm.
in accordance with the Act, the members of the board shall, at the first meeting held on the third Tuesday in January of each year, select from its members a chair and vice chair. And that's the way it has been done since 2001, when the OPP got involved. Technically, the only bylaw, or only procedural bylaw we should be addressing is the 2001, because that's the only one that was signed by the chair and by the secretary. Our clerk insisted that it's not the responsibility of the chair to sign the document, that it has to be done by the mayor, the head of council. Well, that's not correct at all. The board stands at arm's length from council.
Mhm.
Nobody seems to get that through their head. The result of all of this was we didn't get the January meeting. The other part of that 3.3 identifies what we do when no applications are made for a community member position, which we sorted out on the December the 11th.
Mhm.
But in order to make it clear to everyone, I put it into this here.
So, Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
just to make clear, I'm reading this here now, I'm looking at this like Bruce. So if this was printed and accepted, everything in yellow with a line through it and red with a line through it would be removed?
Anything with a line through it, yes.
Anything with a line through it would be removed.
Yes.
And then anything that's new and changed is in pink?
Or yellow. The pink was clerk's suggestion, and the yellow was Jim's suggestion.
Now, you'll notice that on this revised one by the clerk, 3.2 has been taken out altogether. has to stay in there, so there's no confusion as to when the first meeting is being held. That's what got me annoyed. Had this all done up, and then this comes in.
Well, short of going through this clause by clause, I think maybe the best way to handle this is, let's give this till the end of, where are we now, March, end of April, and send any comments to me as chair, and I'll have it all put together to come to the next meeting, so that, and get copies out to everybody well in advance, so that we can bring it to the next meeting.
I would suggest that everyone gets a copy of this one.
Yep. Yep. Yes.
When I read this over, I noticed one thing that is totally off the cliff here, but is the attendance and forwarding of record of attendance to the treasurer for issuing of per diems.
Yes.
Does it rest solely on the member?
I don't know.
Usually what we do is we, hand out at the end of the year a sheet, or you can claim every meeting, whatever you wanna do, depending on how active you are in other boards and committees, but we usually hand out a sheet, we fill that out, and compensate off that.
I've never seen any.
Did you claim?
No.
Like, that's what I was wondering about, because there's been, I know there's, that's why I'm speaking up here a bit. People don't put their claims in, because I know that I've had to come in and pick up a year of those. But I wish there was a simpler way. It's stupid that we have to worry about it, but
We'll make a simple way.
Yep.
a simple way, when you, if your attendance is taken, you just check you're eligible for the,
Yep.
for him, and you don't have to make sure you sign in and get it in, because it doesn't happen. And it's not a huge amount,
The
but
chair can sign off on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
meeting.
rather than leave the onus entirely on the Bruce and I of the world that forget to do things.
Yeah.
How many years have I sat on this?
Another thing that has to be established is for the per diem is how much it is.
So what's the desire of the committee to do with this, is that,
Well, I get the impression that Jim doesn't want to accept this thing at all.
yeah,
And if we don't accept it for information, then we can't even act on it.
This is the one that should have been put into the agenda. This is the one that was put together by a board member for the board to review and make the necessary changes.
And the other one that
We
is,
can't accept this because it was made up by staff,
okay.
not a member of the board. It's up to the board to put these things together, not staff.
So then I suggest that we don't accept this at all.
Well, I've argued that long and hard, and I
Or,
don't seem to get anywhere.
or just vote this down. Because what we're being asked to do is accept this for information. If we don't accept it for information, then it's voted down, right?
or it can be deferred. That's the other option. Dave?
To make things simple, let me be clear. We did not present a bylaw. We made changes to as a board member. We're making recommendations for a better bylaw than what was presented to us, based on best practices and so on. We're not presenting this bylaw as staff writing the bylaw acting like a board member. We took Jim's recommendations that he's put on here word for word, and staff have made changes. So Jim's information's in here. If you want to reject, we're not going to have any hard feelings. I know the clerk's department doesn't have hard feelings about if you reject those changes, but I think you got to have something on a go-forward basis to work with. And we can distribute this document of Jim's, but let me be clear, that document of Jim's is in here in yellow word for word. I've been around this horn on, so I think you got to get something on the table. You got to get yourselves a procedural bylaw, or you're going to be.
But we do have a
Floating
procedural
around,
bylaw by default,
Yeah.
the old original.
I guess so.
That's right.
Yeah. And And the only thing with that is there's some discrepancy, which is the original one. Apparently the only one with the signature is 2001.
So we had a good discussion with Dwayne Sprague
This
on
year's
that one.
bylaws from Grey County and
Mhm.
Bruce County.
Yep.
I've gone through them all. And the one that I put together was the 2013 one,
Mhm.
and I get rather annoyed when I found out that the revisions have been made to the 2015. And actually, they both of them are very much the same.
Mhm.
This one is easier to read than the other one, but the other ones should never have been put in at all. It states that the agenda shall be set up by the chair and the secretary,
Mhm.
and the chair was never given any information at all that this thing was come forward. I couldn't get anything to come up on this, but then they sorted it in the office, and lo and behold, there it is. It was not put together put in there by the chair or the secretary. It was put in there by the clerk, and the clerk had no business doing anything of that nature. It's a technical error,
Mhm.
and even Dwayne Sprague told you, David, and you, John, that staff interference can't be tolerated.
Well, I'm not, I don't wanna get into that debate, but maybe Dwayne Sprague would be a good person to send this to and have him make recommendations to us.
He's got it.
We did the same thing with the OFM bylaw.
Yep.
With the fire marshal's office, so,
Mhm.
it might be good to have Dwayne review this and send a report back for the board to understand that,
Yeah.
but anyway.
I agree. Yes.
Well, hearing that, and perhaps it might be prudent to move a motion to defer or delay or whatever the right word is.
Sure. Yeah.
I believe we have that right under the old procedural bylaw,
Yeah.
from what I read.
Yeah.
And then, let, you and the staff and what was the other guy's name? Whoever.
Dwayne,
Move
yeah.
on. Go over this and put it in less red lines and streets and
Yeah.
stripes.
Yes.
I hate them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that's okay with Mr. Chair,
I
I'd still
think-
move that, defer them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. A seconder for that? Jim will second it. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Carried. Good, thank you. Now we gotta do things about the calendar. Be it resolved, the board approved 2019 Police Service Board meeting dates as presented. We do have one that was done up before. I'm open to suggestions on what we do. Jim?
This again is staff interference. The clerk has no right to determine which days the board shall meet. That is up to the board itself, and that is something we're gonna have to settle tonight.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion is, since we have lost the January meeting, we continue with the meeting every other month, which would give us the one today, one in May, July, September. If you read through it, you'll find that there's no consistency on the days.
Mr. Chair, so
Yes.
if we, and this is like deja vu with the
Yeah.
old bylaw, we were every other month. And
Yeah.
then we found that in certain months there wasn't much going or everybody was busy. So
Yeah.
if we say we're gonna do 6, we'll only get 4 done, we're still within the bylaws, right?
Yes.
And I think that's not a bad idea, to set it up. The only thing I wondered about and to accommodate some people, what about the time change? Is there any support to change it to, I don't know, 3 in the afternoon or something?
Would this be work better for everybody here?
Well, that's something we should discuss now.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm flexible either way. I can day or night.
I would prefer the same time.
Okay.
I think we also have to ask the police department.
We're the only one that has a night meeting of the Police Services Board, Margaret deals with.
How do you feel?
Well, I really should stay Switzerland, like, you know, we work together and you guys can, yeah, so I stay neutral, you know, if, no, I won't, no, if I had a preference, it would be better during the day. But again, I'm at the board's wishes, so.
That's neutral-ish.
Neutral-ish.
Well, I'm not tied to 7 o'clock, but
Yep.
if we wanna go earlier in the day, or if that's the consensus, I'll go
Yeah.
on with it.
Okay, doesn't matter to me. Jim? Does it matter to you, day or night?
It makes no difference to me at all.
How would you done?
Well, it's a bigger chance that I'll make 100% in the evening.
Okay.
than I will in an afternoon if we're combine.
Yeah.
That's the only problem. So, but I'm willing to be flexible and try it, and if I see it's not gonna work, well, we can.
What an excellent suggestion, you know, yeah, build in the flexibility to change it. As long as it's same day.
Yeah, deal.
There's a comment, I'm not on the board.
So, theoretical question, if you were on a police services board somewhere,
I'd be like Mr. Liston.
okay. All right,
If you wanted a 1 o'clock, it'd be a whole lot better than 3 o'clock, right after lunch. That way, because I stop at lunchtime most times irregardless, but 3 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon is like,
And do 8:30 in the morning,
well, I'll take 8:30 in the morning.
Wide
I'll
open.
do the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Chatsworth is 8:30 in the morning, like whatever you guys. And,
I think
you know,
8:30 in the morning hit it anyway.
well, if that works for you guys, that's fine with me.
Staff has
Well,
it.
that works.
Yeah, I
Okay, Bruce?
wouldn't mind, personally, yeah.
Okay,
Is 9 AM okay, just 'cause the office is just opening at 8:30? Like
coffee's not even
most
made.
of our other meetings start at 9 if that, but at 8:30, I mean, we can do
Okay.
it, whatever.
And what about the dates?
Yeah, can I have a list?
Yep.
Do I have a clear,
Yeah,
So
I need to get some clear too, because,
I'll send them in your calendar. Mike.
yeah, 'cause I ended up, not telling the people to prepare the report, and then, you see how that came out.
Yeah.
So we're talking May 21st, is that the first one?
Yeah, that would
Is
be
that
the
correct?
third, that would be the third, Tuesday.
Third Tuesday?
Okay. Yep.
I'm not sure, I don't know what happens at the county anymore, if you don't have the same structure, but you as mayor, do you not have daytime county meetings in the morning?
Just Thursdays.
On the
It's Thursday?
Yeah, just Thursdays, man. They have hardly any committees, there's only a few, so.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, it'd be May 21st,
Mhm.
and then July 15th, and September 17th, and November 19th. For this year.
The only flexibility I would ask about those particular days is right now on the first one, there's a conflict with another PSB meeting that I have. We can maintain our schedule, if the board will agree that it's either myself or the staff sergeant that comes. And if I'm needed, then, if there's a specific question needed, then I can come to one of those.
That's fine with
We
me.
had to do that before.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Does anyone have a problem with that? And how about the days?
You can sit here now, and they all look great,
Yeah.
but the circumstances can change. So then you send out,
I'll send out a new calendar.
get rid of all the old and bring in
I'll delete all the old ones, yeah.
the
Do the new ones.
get a collection of dates here.
So we have May, July, September, and November.
Yeah.
And those will be at 9 AM? Okay.
And just, I don't know how busy you guys get in July, but that may be something we're gonna have to look into something about. That we can do with any of the means as we go. The issues, yeah.
So just, I think maybe the 3rd Wednesday of the month, you guys have council.
This is the third Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, but the 3rd Wednesday, so will there not be staff trying to work with yourself included, getting agendas and things ready for
No, because it would have been published prior
Friday?
Thursday.
They're a lot.
They're not small, okay.
Or at
Staff
least
will accommodate, we have a new person or
What would
department
you-
store.
I shouldn't say anything, what would you say if I said Monday Tuesday is Katie's birthday.
That's
Yeah.
true, that's true.
Yeah. Mondays work for me.
That will accommodate.
That's the holidays.
Yeah.
A lot of holidays.
So that'll be a holiday that week.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
and this one you have January, for Tuesday in January.
Yeah.
And then every second one thereafter.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're gonna do this here, what you really,
Yeah.
make a little change in this.
Okay. We're gonna look at that next meeting anyways. Is Monday acceptable to anyone? Is Monday acceptable to anyone for the meetings instead of Tuesday? Gail's just saying Tuesday's the market.
No, recently on,
Unless Monday happens to fall on a holiday, it wouldn't, there's never a
If there was
third
one
Monday
day.
as a holiday, is there?
The May one, the May one
And
is,
then Tuesday's the best.
yeah, I don't.
the May one's
Yeah.
Victoria Day, the
Oh,
20th.
Yeah. The next one is.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can make it work if I get appointed, I'll make it work.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Not you,
At the
you-
speed in which the province works, we might get a whole year out of Dale anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there may be a conflict with some zone 5 meetings, that was just brought up.
I just looked and we're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's really, like, all this stuff's gonna crash together, at some point in time, you gotta pick your date,
Yep.
so.
Okay. The other thing that we'll have to check is, when we're talking about meetings, it was the countywide meeting. And, I just saw that, our ex-mayor was on that and we were never apprised of that from her. So if I'm supposed to be on that, then,
We're gonna propose, try to propose April the 8th, I believe, is one that's up for discussion.
Yeah.
I wanted to get here, and then I got
And then-
another one in Grey Highlands, and then we get one
Okay.
together that I call meeting, so that
Yeah.
we're all okay that everybody comes,
okay,
at least one representative.
okay. So is that,
We've got a space on there, what we ask is,
I'm just,
I'll just explain, police service board meetings, a lot of them are, I share the same information, and the decision makers from every different, police service board never get to see each other. And we never get to talk about common issues and common goals. So, we put together a meeting where we have a joint board, I don't know if we can call it a joint board, but we can call it a meeting that I call, and request that the police service board attend, a representative, and we talk about joint initiatives.
so where do we wanna go with these dates? Tuesdays, the one that, Lindsay's pointed out for 9 o'clock in the morning?
Either way.
We're gonna start,
We can start
Okay.
there.
all in favor of that? Okay, carried? Good. Hey, it's your report.
Now, compared to what we just went through, this would be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Like I said, and just before the meeting, I took a phone call from, the Dundalk paper, and went over some stats, and I had, asked that, if they get any public input, that it come through to the board. I only ask if anything that comes through the board members, that, publics get in touch with you and it's urgent. Don't wait for a board meeting, if we need to push go on whatever we need to go, get it into me or get it into the comm center right away. One of the municipalities that does not have a board, the councillors hold on to information, and then when I get to some, which I'm no longer going to be doing, they tell me about a problem that is 3 months old that I could have dealt with 3 months ago and didn't know about. So if you do if the public does reach out to you, then please right away email, phone, and if it's urgent, and 911 right on through.
Yeah.
So please have that. So what tonight's report is from September to December. So we had overall in some of our violent crime categories, it looks like we had spike last year in our sexual assaults. statistically, it shows 700%, but it's additional 6 incidences. So that's what some of the numbers, 6 incidents where we got 6 persons charged for those. So, we cleared all the calls, but it is, when you read it on paper, it's 700%, so that gets people's attention. And we've also seen, a little bit of a rise, which is, in the time frame September to December, a rise in our assaults, which seem to be, in my opinion, having the view of the county, has been consistent. That we've seen a little bit of a rise for whatever reason, as we lead into the holidays and into the fall time. There's a spike in some assaults, but you'll see, overall in the year we're down actually 37%. So, and that equates to again like another 11 incidents. So the statistics themselves, the numbers don't sometimes need to be backed up with the actual occurrences, so you get a full view of it. We have noticed that theft under occurrences are up, and a lot of that those theft occurrences we're experiencing right now countywide, and certainly into Bruce County. We're seeing a lot of stolen pickup trucks. A lot of stolen pickup trucks, a lot of stolen trailers, a lot of stolen ATVs, snow machines. You'll see that. Our property crimes teams have engaged quite heavily and taken off 2 or 3 groups that are responsible, and I'm expecting the trend will come back down. Primarily, what we're seeing is pickup trucks with keys in them, taken from every place you would go to breakfast to every field. So, we need to, one of our property crimes units members is looking at a lock it and lose it campaign. We're looking at some table cards that could go in local restaurants, that could go anywhere that would say lock your keys, lock your stuff up. There's an excellent YouTube video that was prepared by the OPP in Bruce County where they had a massive spike in it, where they actually got kids from the high school engaged with it, and they did a video, and what they're doing is bad guys are you go into your field, you leave the keys in the visor like everybody else does, or in the gas cap, in they go, and they go to the GPS, home, and then they go back to the home farm, and they break into the house. They know exactly where it is. So, there's a pretty hard-hitting thing. The other thing we're doing is, because we just had an NGO meeting yesterday, I think it's pretty hard about, what are we doing in the area. They're going into, like the high schools themselves. They're going into, like an arena, for example, and searching pockets for keys. So you may have locked your truck up, but you had keys in your pocket, and they go in and steal that. So, it's a sharp task, and to be quite honest with you, they're running from us like crazy. We don't chase stolen cars just for the sake of a stolen car anymore, so that's done. So first time they see it, one just happened about an hour ago, where they was stolen truck, and they saw us, and they see you later, we don't follow. Okay. So we have access to our helicopter, which we used successfully in Bruce County when we had a pursuit there, and we also have the only agency in North America using what's called STAR technology, and basically it's a sticky dart, if you can imagine that it's a specially equipped car that has that we get close to it and we dart the car and it GPS'd it. So you put a GPS in it, and there's the studies of the state that say the public safety piece is that, stolen cars, when we were chasing stolen cars, we were causing lots of carnage. There were lots of people dying, including the people that stolen the car, whatever the case may be. They've done, if you dart the car with this STAR technology, within 1 minute, the driving behavior is back down to normal. So when they're not being chased, they go right back down to normal driving. Everybody's safer. And so that includes everybody crossing the street, everybody coming up to every corner. So we're employing all these different techniques in order to do that, and ultimately you have to let some stolen cars go, you let them go. And it's a very hard thing to do, actually, when you're in the throes of it, to actually shut it off, and our communication center will get on the air and overstop, and, with the GPS, you have to know exactly, they write down to your speed, so they'll know whether you're parked or not. So, 'cause back in the day, people used to say, yeah, of course I'm stopped, and no, but, so that's how we're dealing with some of that. We have to employ those technologies that we have in order to stay on top of these things, and again, overarching, public safety. One of the things as cannabis came through, we haven't seen the spike I was thinking. I sat here numerous times and said, we're either gonna see a big spike, and it'll level off, or we won't see a blip, and we haven't seen a blip. We've seen, and I'll cover off later, there has been some impaired by drugs. That you could almost bank on, that was gonna come in, and it's oftentimes it's a combination of alcohol and drugs. Southgate continues to be a nice, safe place to live. These little blips on here, when you look at actual incidents, as opposed to, a hard number of what has occurred, it's just the ebb and flow of the way things go. We talked earlier today, but one of the things I pay very close attention to is the population increase that you're going to be seeing in Southgate Township here, and presence here as it relates to our amalgamation. So as we've talked about, the amalgamation between Bruce Peninsula and Grey County OPP takes place May 1st. All of a sudden, now when we have, I have the ability to shift multiple officers, so we go from, we essentially double our shift coverages, double our area, but through our analytics and our analysts and tactical and strategical analysts tell us where to put the people. So now I can shift people, if I need to shift people from Wyerton to Southgate, I can do that. And all of a sudden I can flood down here with 30 cops if I need to, as we see something. And we look at traffic trends. So, as the Peninsula North, incredible amount of traffic going up there. But we have the ability now to push down and solve the traffic problems here, get them here before they get to there. So, that's where we're employing and with our amalgamation. We still continue to be high clearance rate in our violent crime. Property crime is ebb and flow. We're off 3.4% December to December. All it takes is one of those crews that, like for example, last week we arrested 2 people and there's 33 offenses cleared. So when you start throwing 33%, 33 offenses on there, because they never steal one car, one ATV, or one trailer, one loaded tools. So that's how the ebb and flow goes. And as I said, we're pretty lucky down here in particular. We haven't seen the incident of purple fentanyl. We haven't seen the incident of an overload of methamphetamine. We have the odd drug occurrence that marijuana related, but we haven't seen what we're seeing. We're not seeing significant naloxone deployments here at all, which is not the same as what we're seeing in our neighbors. 430 speeding tickets in September to December. 21 criminal code traffic offenses. That would generally be dangerous driving. Could be impaired driving. Non-criminal code would be offenses against our accident insurance acts, as well as any other driving related stuff. Liquor offenses seem to be close to the same, with before being different, and other violations. Right now we're just wound up our distracted driving campaign, and people are getting the message because it's cell phone use in particular is very difficult for us to prove. You got to see the phone up the ear, and it's got to be there. And we utilized some unmarked vehicles, unmarked different vehicles, and sat them in strategic locations on main highways, and we just didn't see them. We just didn't. They weren't there. You park a black and white, you're certainly not going to get anybody. But you park a plain white van, and they're just not there. We're just not seeing them, which is I suppose good. That was in there.
You can go to I-75 then.
Yeah. so that, I think, because we've got 4 big months here, I'm not gonna go through the whole billing numbers. That gives us an overview of where we are. What I like to see is, I pay attention to areas where there's gas drive off, where there's stuff under from the construction sites as with the population increase and the homes being built, the stuff from, the construction sites, also the increase in, traffic and traffic awareness that we get. We work closely with Dufferin County as we need to. That's the beauty of being integrated in our responses. And I've got, to me, when I start looking at, suspicious person occurrences, I look at as a positive thing, because that means that your community's engaged and they're switched on. They go, okay, that person doesn't belong here, something is not right. So and enough for them to pick up and call us, which is great. We're seeing that your communities are paying a difference, and you're paying attention, sorry. We have a little bit of a run as I start to squeeze through September into some noise complaints, which is again kind of par for the course on the for the weather related stuff. And again, things that are straight up dollars and cents are the 911 hang-ups. Still looking at 7 in 1 month with 47 in September to year to date. That is straight up dollars and cents. That doesn't need to be spent by the municipality. We have to get that message off, and you'll see that our press releases are generally tailored to those things. Let's see here, any other highlights here? Yeah, we're seeing some drive-offs of gasoline, which are then related to a stolen vehicle 9 times out of 10. If it's meant to be, if someone's actually meant to drive off as opposed to forgot, it's a stolen car. So you're seeing in October, you're seeing two incidences completely of anything related to drug possession, which is down from 8 for that year date, down from 13. So that again is into the community tolerance piece as well. And one of the things, and again, you start looking again. 911 hang-ups. Again, if we can get that message out and how we get it out. One of the things they're doing in Bruce Peninsula to get the slow down and arrive alive stuff is they're looking at every booking that gets made through I think Downtown Transport. That's for include any reservations or whatever. They get a bottom. They get a little piece that's got the OPP logo out, the money not be who are out here with intention. So I'm trying to push those pieces forward all the time. And you can remind them.
Can I just ask a question about you're saying stolen gas?
Yeah.
Right? The service agents could eliminate that altogether.
You know what, you're absolutely right. There is a way to do that, but here's one of the philosophies. First of all, if it's a big company like say AXO, for example, it has to be a corporate decision, right? It has to come from head office to come down, because if you make people go in and pay, as opposed to standing at the pump, they're not going to come there. And that's from the business perspective that you're going to have to do that. So it becomes a shared ownership between as a police problem, but also a business problem. So, but to your point, it could be eliminated. The US does it all the time. Everybody seems to want to find it.
I know, like sometimes at night, if you go to a service station, you have to prepay, and otherwise you can't get gas.
Yeah, and if that becomes the new normal, then that becomes the new normal. But it's going to take a little bit of a culture shift. And again, business owners are trying to work their business in any way possible. And if you make it difficult for them, if you go to pay down here inside, right, you're 8 deep. Sometimes, and is it worth it? No, I'll go down the road to the next one where I can pay it. So that's the double-edged sword with it. But I don't. There's more work to be done there in order to do that properly. landlord tenant acts are up in November, but what's really nice is we're looking at very limited, overall, incidents of, mental health, act stuff that we need to deal with, which is not the normal course where we are here, which is great. So there's two reasons for that. You don't have the individual suffering in a crisis or not responding to crisis, or what community supports are there are working. We work very closely with our mental health stuff, and we're working with developing strategies to have clinicians with us so that the police, it's not necessarily a police matter, but we're open 24/7, so we get the calls. So when we get a frequent flyer, someone who's with us all the time, calls us all the time, we look at better ways to get them the help they need. And then conversely, if it's no longer a police call, if they just need assistance with getting Ontario Work stuff and they need to get their restrictions and need to get all those things. So getting the right people engaged to do the right things. We work very closely with our partners on that one. The other thing we're doing very successfully is we've instituted a crime abatement program where anybody who's on probation or on a release document from the court that has street enforceable conditions, as we call them, so that means curfew, that means no alcohol, that means all that, they're actually assigned to platoons, so that platoon has 3 people that are street enforceable conditions. So if you're supposed to be home by 11, we do that at 11:15. So we come around and say, are you home? And present yourself and say, yeah, I'm home. And it doesn't take long before that starts to vibrate through, you make 2 or 3 knocks and, you take someone in who, you're not there. It's very easy to get a report on the end of that. So, it's starting to make a difference. So you start to see those things, our bail violations, all that are all starting to drop off because people they're starting to play along. We had, you started to see a little more frauds being identified, those type of things. That's been the CRA scam that's been going around. Everyone was getting those phone calls. I was getting them on, an OPP issued phone, that they were looking for me. So the federal government finally jumped in and took care of that problem because it's a sharp drop off from there. But that's where you're seeing those are from.
The visa guy still calls me.
No, yeah, you can get a cheaper rate, or yeah. What was the other one?
Somebody
restaurant.
purchased $600 worth of stuff in India or something.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very crafty. When one of my other jobs was doing our identity crime teams, and they are absolutely, that's their business. They get good at it, and they learn to pick on everybody. And they're very the thing with those type of things is nobody should be embarrassed because they are good. They are really, really, really good. They hone their skills. They sharpen their teeth and they learn from each one. We used to have, when I was in our anti-rackets branch, we used to play along with them, right? So we would go back and forth with them because we were tying them up. They weren't tying somebody else up.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah. So and that's the other thing is people have to understand that if you do get duped, it happens. It's no slight against you as a person. Just allow us to engage in that stuff. And the next piece is the cyber stuff. And the OPP has a cybercrime unit that looks after all that. There was some municipalities that had their records actually hacked and stolen, and one of them actually paid, and had the records released. And in that case, if we've been engaged, we can track that stuff. We have really smart people that sit in windowless rooms that do that all the time. So if that happens to anybody, let us know. If we can track that stuff. How, I don't know. But I know we had a call to be able to say that. So the bulk of our traffic accidents through the time frame, the animals, seem to be, always the winner, in what causes accidents here. And what's nice is, I just wanna kind of. Yeah, there's only 4 incidences of, any injury in the incident of, which is great. You know, dented fenders are, we can do that, we can fix that up, but it's the injury stuff. And, we did have one which was unique, was a mechanical failure of an automobile, so we won't see that too often. It's either, speed too fast for condition, which is getting used to winter driving, and animals, and then, rules of the road, they'll be good right away, are our culprits.
We haven't had any buggies,
Pardon me?
we haven't had any buggies hit recently?
No, there was some, over in Bruce, I believe, yeah. There was, it seemed to 2 back to back. So, we haven't had any of that, and, our media relations officer has been working with the community to remind them again where we need to be and, about everybody being safe. We did a series of press releases in September, 11 of them, 13 again. Record and report any suspicious activities, that's the other one we'd like to see. One thing I'm very proud of that we did, and we're in the middle of, and it's, this will be our 5th Wednesday night, is we do a Citizens Police Academy, where we have, it seemed like every Wednesday that this thing was going on was a snowstorm. We had 40 people come to Grey Roots, where we show them everything the OPP's capabilities of, what we do. For example, we had our street crime units here, and we went through a scenario with 40 people about, okay, yeah, you call Crime Stoppers, and you say there's a stolen truck on this property. We go by, we see it, we actually videotape it, what the steps go through for us in order to go get that truck. Because you sit at home and go, I go Crime Stoppers, the damn truck's still there, why isn't I not doing anything about it? But you walk through the process, so what it is to get a search warrant, how many people are involved, how it all has to be done legally, and you end up with 500 pages of documents, 9 people, and all of that, and it really added some perspective. And what was really nice, I looked at it from, so we've had our tactical teams, our street crime teams, we've had patrol officers, we've had probation and parole, we've had the Crown Attorney come talk to the citizens about what goes on and why, very lively debate about why some charges are proceeded with, some are not, why are light sentences, so the Crown took a little bit of responsibility on that, how that happened. So yeah, and what I'm using, part of what we're using it for is recruitment. Is we found 5 young people, 3 females, that are interested in joining the OPP. So we've got now, they've got an inside track to look at our recruitment, meet a recruiter, see what that's all about. Local people stay local. So that's how we recruit locally. They hang around and they're home and they do all these things, because 99% of the transfers we get out of any county is going home, right? They're either, so that's been really valuable, that we've been able to do that. So yeah, I'm super proud of that. Our community service officer has been, again, doing the OPP Kids program at Egremont School, High Point, school patrols at Egremont, Proton and Community School, High Point School, CAA bus patrol appreciation event, Egremont Community School and High Point. So they're out there in the schools. Our auxiliary unit, again, in September, 12 hours, 10, 29, and 14 hours respectively in our in patrol hours. We've had there's a ride program almost every night. I think you have a question about that, but there's a ride program generally somewhere in Grey County every night, if not more than one. You're seeing some foot patrol hours. In September there was 15, October there was 10 and a half, 5.25 and 15.5. So We've seen in 2018, we saw just 3 in December impaired by drugs. So impaired by drugs have landed here. So we saw 3. And subject to anyone's question, that's my report.
Any questions? I might as well ask ones about the Holstein
Sure.
ride. We had somebody from the public inquiring about ride programs. Are they out of the normal funding, or are they funded a different way? Or
So they're total regular business.
the regular business?
Unless it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, there's a special grant.
Yeah.
That gets applied for additional funding
Yeah.
the Christmas through that.
Yep.
I responded to that request
Oh, okay.
a month ago.
Oh, okay, super. Yeah. This person was concerned that there was an officer all the way from Wyerton down here, but that's,
We're all one. We're one big family.
yeah, okay.
And what we do sometimes, if shift shortages, for example, we'll put out overtime availability. Somebody lives, the Wyerton officer could live in Para, which is not far to get to Chatsworth, which is here.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how it would tick along. Whether you normally work in Wyerton, we have officers come up from Wellington.
Yeah.
So they come up from Civitdale, so or even Rockwood. So.
Yep, I'm pretty familiar with that. We had 81 fire halls, and you could end up at Etobicoke or Scarborough.
Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all a big O and a shoulder flash. So.
No boundaries.
No bounds. You're exactly right.
Was there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much for the report.
There's a resolution just to pass this information.
Oh, let's see. Resolved that the detachment commander's quarterly report be received for information. We don't have a mover or seconder yet?
No.
So Jim will move it, second by Bruce. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Correspondence.
So this is the same as our council agenda for correspondence, just a couple items, and they would all be received under one resolution.
Okay. So the resolution would be that the board receive the items of correspondence and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. And that's the Zone 5 meeting minutes, from 09-18 and from September joint Grey County PSB meeting minutes, and the community safety and wellness presentation to the Zone 5 from December 11th be received for information. Don will move it, seconder. Bruce, any comments or questions on any of these? Now, just see if I've got this straight, for the community safety and well-being, that's up to the municipality, not the police services board, so.
Yeah, the municipality, but we play a role.
Role.
The police play a role. And
Okay.
what we're trying to do, there's a meeting on Friday, where most of the work, we think anyway, until we get everybody together, is already done.
Yes.
On a county level, so there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. So hopefully, I can't be there, but I'm sending 2 staff sergeants to make sure that we've got everything. We may be able to streamline that, what otherwise looks like a daunting process.
Okay, and I think that's the one you and I are going to on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
It starts at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I think that they've done, and the other thing where I think I'm able to lay my hands on is I think I should be able to get Wellington County, because Wellington County, I was sitting beside the detachment commander, he said all the bow is ready to go on it, so we can, there's no sense in, reinventing the wheel.
Absolutely.
We get our hands on it.
Yep. Okay, any further discussion on any of that? No? Okay, all in favor of the motion to receive these? That is carried. New unfinished business about the 2019 conference. Be it resolved, the board approve members, John Woodbury and Jim Cruz attendance at the 2019 OAPSB conference, and that necessary registrations be completed through the clerk's office. Anyone else wanting to have a name for that to go?
That was mine, only, but
Okay. so we can add Bruce's name to that.
There was a lot of information there last week.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Need to take that before we close.
Yep. No one else wants to go, even a non-member that could be a member soon?
I'll move a motion that we send the 3 amigos.
Okay.
We'll just amend.
Yeah,
Caballeros.
three something. I've been part of the Three Stooges before too, so. Okay, all in favor? Second, oh, I need a seconder. Oh, no, Bruce seconded.
Did he?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
All in favor? And that is carried too. Members' privilege. Oh, under new business, sorry, there was another thing that I had to bring up was the, we talked about it this morning, the speed, what was
Forward speed monitoring device.
yes.
When we had our joint get-together, there was discussion, and the idea was brought forward that, I think we've talked about it here, about the purchase of scales,
Yeah.
portable scales, and I can close that loop.
Yeah.
They've been purchased, and they're in operation. There's 11 people, that have been trained. We just sent out a press release, actually, where I was shocked at how heavy the scales are, the individual pads, but, so we have the ability, and we're trained by the MTO, and we've got officers from, 11 of us, ready to go to, on the side roads. And, we're gonna operate, the idea, and I don't know if Southgate has a half-load bylaw with fines.
Yes.
And that's where we'd like to put we can go into the highway traffic app, but it's much more advantageous to use the bylaw. So I'm not sure if Jim Hunter has reached out. Lindsay, do you know, has he reached out at all?
No.
So Jim Hunter,
Joanne might have.
cause he sent out a big email, and I think there was.
Yes, sorry,
So
Joanne received that.
the idea was to go under the bylaw,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's a direct route back in as
Mhm.
opposed to going to county funds.
Just clarification, because I've heard it on the radio, and I'm sure Dale and I share the same. So, farm-plated vehicles, because I had this argument with a detachment commander about 10 years ago. There's some exemptions written in with milk trucks and other things, and you need to be clear on that, because I'm not sure all your officers understood it at that time.
Yeah, I can't speak to that, cause I don't know,
Okay.
to be honest with you, what they are, but one thing I do know is Jim Hunter knows. He was a, commercial truck driver for 13 years beforehand, so he's well versed in those areas. And if there is a confusion or something happens as a result, there's a court process to solve that. And because I can't answer that question, I can't tell you what the exemptions are. That's not an area of the Highway Traffic Act that I have. And I don't know whether the same exemptions for farm-plated vehicles are exempt under the bylaw as well. Though Jim's got carriage of all that.
Well, I know some municipalities have kind of overlooked that little detail. I'm
Mhm.
thinking of Erie Township.
Yeah, it's quite possible, and again, I can't speak to what the wording of the bylaw, and maybe it's petition to have to look towards the bylaw mirroring the exemptions on the Highway Traffic Act.
The vehicles that you're pulling over,
These are large, overloaded gravel trucks.
Okay.
We're not taking a milk truck.
are they weighed on site?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's what the portable scales do.
But if you're trying to weigh on these roads now, you're just gonna push right into the road anyway.
What you're ending up with is they're moved to a suitable spot. So, they're taking that, we're not using private property. The officers know, we're trained by the MTO on where to go in order to do that properly.
Do you have?
Yeah, something to maybe just expand on that. So I believe our bylaw does, relate to vehicles of husbandry for farming practices. One thing our bylaw does allow, that if somebody phones up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to the works department and says, hey, it's froze outside, would you give us an exemption? We do give them a morning exemption for those conditions where it's froze up. I mean, now we're getting into whether the company does not look like that,
So,
but
this is a learning process
Yeah.
for us, and I think for everybody, 'cause that's the first heard of that.
they will have an email that they should have in the vehicle with them that they can show the officer.
And then what we can do is there's a generic Grey County OPPA mall, that maybe that gets sent there as well. So we can work on some process to around that. No, what we wanna do, the idea is that it's not the one-off milk truck that's going to do day-to-day business. It's the large gravel hauler that's flattening out the roads, that's causing the damage to the roads, that's causing all the money to fix them up. That's what we're looking for there.
Did you have something to tell?
Yeah, I guess a perfect example is in the agricultural industry and the livestock industry where cattle plots come from the west. They drove not 36 hours continuously, but 36 to 40 hours for the full load that's licensed. The only way they can get to the farm for a mile is on a half load. That's if they would turn their eye to that type of stuff.
Well, then we can't do that. Like, we don't turn our eye. It's either in or out, you know, and does that, because we can't, and there's officer discretion, absolutely. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, you know, that every truck driver that's, you know, taking that last half of a mile and a quarter that he needs to get to the farm is gonna get picked off. Okay, again, that's not our focus.
No, I would hope not. I hope that doesn't become the focus.
It's not.
Because if it is, there will be a lot more roads and that will not get the privilege of having.
Absolutely.
Or else you drive the businesses and the municipality.
Yeah,
in
no,
agriculture.
I absolutely agree. This was brought forward by every roads department of, within the police service board, that was a problem. And it was never once, in any of the discussions, they talk about any, you know, vehicles related to husbandry, anything along those lines. It was large, overloaded gravel trucks that are destroying the silos.
I don't know, they didn't like my manure trucks last week up in Collier Township, I can tell you that.
John,
They were hauling chicken manure,
What?
sheep manure, huh?
did you get a ticket?
No, but they hose it all up on the road until they
Well,
decide what they're gonna do.
that's,
You know, that's not your issue.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we look at our bylaw too, to make sure that it's covering things the right way too. Okay, members' privilege. Wow, that got quiet. Jim, and then Don?
oh, we forgot the, sorry.
The cottage thing that Lindsay was mentioning was Side Road 24. Remember I mentioned that the area was all panelled up.
Right,
Will your people keep an eye on that?
yes.
Because if those 200 plants were actually there, that's a little more than the regular 2 or 4 plants.
Yeah, it depends, see, the complex piece with the marijuana grow operations and overgrows and all of that is that Health Canada put out a series of different licenses at different times. At one time you could have this, but you could also have this, or you could have that, or you couldn't have that. So the background work has to be done. If there's a Health Canada license that says they can have 200 plants there, oftentimes that morphs to 500. So the overgrow is what we look at. But if there's nothing there, then it's very careful what we can do.
This is a weekend retreat for this individual. He lives in, where is it?
Because we've talked about that particular one, and that's on the radar as we start to come into grow season, certainly.
Okay.
Not outdoor grow quite yet, but we're getting there.
Don?
Yeah, well, this is to do with the winter, road closures, and some of us are unlucky that the OPP shut the road, and it's the first time in history I've ever seen it shut. So we pulled our plugs and dumped all our milk, down the drain, and yet, in another detachment, both milk trucks were allowed to go through and pick it up milk. And, I just think that for how many years, we've never had road closures for some of that vehicles, and even our own situation where we have, and Dale's situation, where we have trucks to deliver feed, have to go through road closures to deliver feed to animals, and I'm not particularly excited about having some officer saying you can't do this, but it's gonna create a huge competition. We have to go through, there's no ifs, ands, and buts.
Animals need to be fed, we get that, but here's the flip side of the coin of that, is that when the road's closed, it's closed for a truck or whoever's driving that truck puts it in the ditch, gets hurt. So that means the fire department, the emergencies, the paramedics, the OPP, right down to the tow truck driver has to get that out of it. Because if it's a truck, they'll be leaking diesel fuel or whatever the case may be. In a worst case scenario, can't do that. So, like, we can't, no one will give you the blessing to go down a closed road. Because car insurance is gone, all that stuff's all off the table. So, we need to have fruitful discussions on how we best manage that. Now, it's only been, as you said, one time in history. Now, I think we can be understanding of the need.
It's more now than it used to be.
Yeah, I think we're getting some severe weather. We had three significant weather events in Grey County last year. Three where we ended up closing major highways. And when we shut down Highway 10 and Highway 6, okay, major transportation route that cost millions of dollars. And we're very cognizant of that. But we have to balance all the safety of everybody who has to go down there to get the accident that happens out, and there has to be a fruitful discussion on what the acceptable piece is. And right now, the Highway Traffic Act says no, you can't do it. And you know, you go down there, you take that risk, and I totally understand. It comes from a farming background. I know exactly why you need to get there. You know, you need to get there. The animals need to get fed. And so I don't have a clear answer on that, but you need to look at both sides of the coin on how and those things carry on. And I don't know the answer, but I'm certainly willing to sit down and talk about it.
I'm not saying it's the answer, but in our situation, we have our own sand and our own plow. We plow and sand the road to get it. They're not there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that you do what you need to do, and I also cognizant that you know, farms were all once on one concession. You know, they're not. You know, they got land here, they got land there, they got a barn over there. So you have to keep those animals alive, and how that is done, I don't know. Is it local storage? I don't have the answer for Bill.
And
you
the other
just
thing,
got one at me. I have no idea how to do
the other
that.
thing is the timeliness by which they lift the road closure.
Yep.
Because
It's a partnership.
radios you can never trust the radio because they don't know.
Well, you know what, I just, last week, I was on, AM 560 out of Owen Sound, and we talked about road closures, and how best we get it. I think we need to do better on the notification. One thing that we do, and I don't follow it, but we have, the OPP has Twitter accounts, and West Region Twitter accounts, and I'll tell you how that information moves, and how quickly that moves. Because the sergeant on the road says that road is closed or that road is open. It's sent to the communication center immediately. The communication center sends it immediately to our provincial operations center, who has the 24/7 operating the Twitter account sitting right beside. So that's how quickly that goes. So Twitter will be your best at this. It doesn't solve the problem of people like myself that choose not to follow that stuff, but that's the best way so far.
Well, and that's the situation happened in number 6, because Miller trucks were plowing number 6, and there was no cars there, because the barriers were still up on the south end, and people were saying it was closed.
They don't open, as soon as before we open them, they have to be clear, okay? All the cars have to be off the road, okay? So that takes time, right? And then it's MTO that removes the barriers on provincial highways. We rely on the townships to remove the barriers on township roads. But they're not, until everything's gone on it, that includes every little fender bender that's happened before that left the cars behind, we don't count the road. Because no one will take on the liability of the fact of leaving one car, well, that's just one on the shoulder, and somebody comes up and wipes that car out. Well, we know that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So we just out of abundance of caution, we don't do that. And like I said, you want to sit and talk about it and figure out a way that you think you can help me out with the rules I have to play with. I'd love to hear it. You know, because I do get, I understand the business side that business needs to get done, and how we do it in those extreme weather events. Now we're lucky enough, and we live in the snow belt. And we only had 3 where we had to go full closures like that. So we are pretty lucky that way, but how can we do those better? Let's have those talks. Let's sit down with transportation managers, all those. I'm committed to help out how to do that. And you have more expertise in a lot of areas that we don't. And if we're gonna use your expertise to advocate, to say, these vehicles deserve exemptions on closed roads, you can give me that ammunition that I can push forward. So that's how we all win.
I think there was a lot of mistakes made that day. There was a lot of mistakes made that day in some of those calls, because around here, it wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't.
We had a terrible day a few days later, Monday.
And they didn't make those anything.
It was a disaster. It was you shouldn't have been out there, but I think
Yeah,
it's
Monday was
communication.
bad, yeah.
There was a Monday.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be some communication, but that day, some of us came to work, and we found out when we got here, the road was closed, but CFOS said it was open for a while, and then it got shut down again, but anyway.
Well, I think that's the kind of stuff we should look at bringing forward and discussing and seeing if we can't make some positive input.
Yeah, and open to it all. There's microcosms of really bad weather in some places. There's microcosms of great weather. All
That's
the
what
same.
happened that day. It was
And all the same events. Honestly, Maxwell is the snowiest, blowiest place in Grey County. It's the worst wind ever, right through there. And you can be sunbathing in Chatsworth and you be down, you can't see the out of your car in Maxwell.
And that's where it kind of stopped, was Highway 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here down, and then out to Highway 6 is pretty good, and then it was a disaster.
Yeah, sorry to bug everybody.
No, but it's a
You're
good
not.
conversation.
You know what? This is I love this because this is exactly how we get better. So and then if you that's the only way I get the ammunition to advocate on your behalf for what I think is right.
Well, I can see by having a general road closure, it creates all kinds of inequity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's too bad it couldn't be a little more specific, but.
I say,
Well,
we
there
talk
should be
people
enough
with-
communication in this day and age to pinpoint where
Yeah, and I've had those discussions because again, I took phone calls on the live call-in show about
It's good
somebody told me
because
it was closed, somebody not told me it was closed.
it
Okay.
helps the minute the kids out when they go to school, there's no cars on the track. They never miss one day of school.
No.
they didn't.
It's a lot of tough decisions, because I've been there early in the morning. You gotta decide whether these kids should go to school or not. That's a pretty critical piece of population you gotta decide on, so it's a lot of pressure on road
That
crews.
decision is about 6 o'clock in the morning too.
Well, it's actually a little bit before that sometimes too, they get going, but, and then weather changes, when the light goes to dark to light, the weather changes, so you can look like a goat pretty quick and just weather.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else for members' privilege? Okay, confirmation of next meeting, that will be May 21st tentatively. I'm gonna get that out to everybody, we decided earlier. Okay,
And that's
I
not
think
me.
somebody's pretty
And-
efficient
and at 9 a.m.
Meeting dates out.
we'll try it at 9 a.m. And then I just need a motion to adjourn. If anyone wanna be done?
I'm not part of that.
Don moved it. Okay, thank you.
Joe do the next meeting.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I-
We didn't talk about the speed